So before we come to the Ceylon Literary and Arts Festival, I wanted to ask you. It's called a curated event, and I suppose that's different to an open event. Could you? I suppose what are you trying to bring through this curation? Is it a specific aesthetic? Is it some kind of an overall theme?
It's a good question because I think in general we in Sri Lanka we're not used to literary festivals, and that curation part is hugely important but vastly underrated. It's as if I, as a curator, I go into the restaurant and I choose the dishes. I'm presented with a menu. In my case, it is who I can invite to the festival. Foreign authors, local authors. Mostly it boils down to whose arm can I twist into coming here.
Right.
Please come, please come. And we'll give you a good time and you can talk about your work. And then the curator has to match author with author, subject with the authors. So it's not an easy job because
Yes, it sounds quite overwhelming to curate such a large event that happens in two places with the international
it's
attendees
actually
and Sri Lankans. So.
it's actually not that large because I'm cheating. What appears in Kandy also appears in Colombo. So it's the same festival.
But it's still a challenge when the audience can be slightly different, the Canadian audience,
Yes,
Colombo
yes.
audience.
I'll be interested to see how this works out because Canadian audiences are supposed to be very conservative, terribly serious, and I have some really wicked sessions in here. So let us see how it all pans out. Speak to me in a month and I'll probably be in jail or something.
So I wanted to ask another question about Sri Lanka and art in general. Now, Sri Lanka seems to have produced a lot of outstanding talent in art in general. So Yohani, the singer, huge export to India. Hiran Abhisekara wins a Tony. Shihan Karunatilaka won a Booker. So it's quite something given that public investment in arts and culture in Sri Lanka is very low. It's not seen as a serious sort of avenue for young children to go into. How do you think this happens? Do you see more in the future?
Yes, absolutely. I mean, I personally feel or think that Sri Lanka is one of the most, Sri Lankans are one of the most talented races on earth. We really are. But it's never brought out. There is no machinery that encourages us to go into the arts, and if we do go into the arts, there's no one to back us.
Right.
So it's like really, really difficult. And what do you do? I think it depends on the big boys, the fat cat financiers, who need to realize that a country's strength depends far more on its soft power, on its culture, the image it presents, the way it embraces outsiders. That is far more important than, I mean, this is not to say the economy is not important. Of course, people mustn't starve. You must have enough stuff to survive. But as a country, you need to punch above your weight. You need to be out there with who you really are. Now, I think we Sri Lankans, we have a crisis of identity because, again, nobody tells us anything. So we have to make up our own mind. Right. It's a very complex society. So each of us is really different to any other. So I think that there is a problem there. But maybe that also helps our creativity because we're all jostling against each other. It's like a box of kittens. We're all going in different directions. I go a lot to India for their literary festivals.
Right.
And one thing that really strikes me is that India, although it's a continent, people are far more homogeneous than they are in Sri Lanka.
Oh, very interesting. Because you always think of India as this hodgepodge of all these different cultures that come together. But then there is a uniformity in what is Indian, isn't it?
There is a huge uniformity in what is Indian. And all Indians they're so much more loyal to that one monolithic idea of Indianness than we are to Sri Lankanness.
Very interesting. Could you tell us a little bit more about the arts festival that you're here to promote for us?
Okay.
The Ceylon Literary and Arts. To give it its full name, it's called the Ceylon Literary and Arts Festival.
Yes. If you can swallow that, you can swallow anything.
Sorry.
Yeah. So anyway, it's the first one. So please forgive me if there are mistakes. The mistakes are all mine. The beautiful stuff is all everyone else's, as they say in books.
Okay.
But I have actually been involved in two other festivals here. I was a founder member of the Golf Festival, which actually began in my dining room.
That's amazing.
The very first meeting. And I was the very first curator of Colomboscope. I invented that name, Colomboscope. So I've had this kind of sporadic kickstarts at different festivals. But the Ceylon Literary Festival is different in the sense that it's not it's not bound by Gaul. So it's in Colombo and Kandy this year. Who knows, next year it may be Colombo and Jaffna or Colombo Kurunegala, Trincomalee. We want to take literature out into the field. And there's a reason for this. We want to try and encourage young people to take an interest in literature. And it's very difficult if you're young. You know, you've got a bus fare to pay for. You've got to find a place to stay if you are coming into Colombo. And then what about time off from work? So it's
Right.
far better to take that festival to Kurunegala or Kandy or wherever.
So you're having one in Kandy and the same function in Colombo. What are the dates?
It's 8th and 9th in Kandy, 10th, 11th, 12th in Colombo of February.
You'll be having international authors and
Yes, half and half. Because I believe that Sri Lankan authors are every bit as important as foreign ones.
yes.
So we have 20 Sri Lankan authors, 22 foreign ones.
Okay.